Hey everyone, welcome to today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining. I see people are just adding in. We'll just wait another few seconds until people are able to join Zoom here. Really nice to see so many familiar names in the attendee list today. Awesome. So as many or even all of you know, we've recently launched Admin Analytics in the Article Galaxy admin portal, a development that we believe will transform how platform customers interact with and understand their data. This launch comes directly from conversations with administrators like yourself who express the need for more intuitive analytics tools. And we're happy to be able to show that to you today. So on the next slide, let me just walk you through real quick what we have planned for today. So in just a moment, I'll introduce our panelists on this call, Heidi, and then we'll dive into challenges that we know of those conversations that I've mentioned in research and in content management. And then really the heart of this webinar will be the live showcase of Admin Analytics in Article Galaxy, show you around there. And then, of course, we'll have dedicated time to answer all of your questions. So if you already have questions, feel free to add them down on Zoom below where it says Q&A. You can add the questions there, or as they come up during the webinar, feel free to just write them in there and know that we'll have dedicated time to answer them towards the end. Okay, quick housekeeping item as usual. You're all muted, so you don't have to worry about any of that. And this webinar is being recorded, and I'll be sharing the webinar recording with all of you after this webinar is over. So you can rewatch, share with your colleagues, and also, of course, if any questions come up afterwards, we're here to help. And as I mentioned, yeah, we have Q&A enabled, so feel free to leverage that. Okay, so my name is Julia Heesen. I'm the Director of Growth Marketing at Research Solutions. Many of you might already know me. And then I'm joined by Heidi Nichols. She is the Product Specialist at Research Solutions. And Heidi's really our expert all around Article Galaxy, and in this case, also Admin Analytics. Welcome, Heidi.
Thanks, Julia. Super excited.
Over to you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I actually see some familiar faces on the call today as well. So really excited to be on the webinar today and sharing with you some of the things that we've been developing. So I do want to first frame this up just to show you some of the problems that we hear from our customers, and hopefully that we'll be solving through our various solutions as well as Admin Analytics here. So we do often take feedback from customers, which is, again, part of the reason why we're here today. Especially when it comes to managing, accessing, and acquiring scientific content and literature. So, of course, there is a lot that goes into research, but also into content management, one of which is just the time it takes to manually compile and analyze information. So again, I think this does apply to both researchers as well as to content managers or librarians. And we have heard from many of our, specifically our administrative customers, that they're just spending so much time aggregating, exporting, and analyzing the information on how users are interacting with scientific literature, where they're acquiring it from, and also, of course, trying to understand trends in spending, transactions, all of that. So we'll talk a little bit more about this later and how we're actually trying to solve for this today with Admin Analytics. But we also hear that researchers and content managers are just overloaded and overwhelmed by the sheer amount of information that's available today. So it becomes more difficult to search, to find relevant papers, weed out the noise. I often equate this to finding a needle in a haystack. I really need these maybe 10 to 15 specific papers to accomplish what I need, or start this research project. So on the content management side as well, it takes a lot of time and resources to organize, to manage this content. And that does mean you have to have the right tools in place, not only to search for literature, but also to manage it, organize it, and to share it. Another problem we hear is just fragmented and disorganized data. So there's a lot of valuable data that you might come across, but if it's not readily available, if you don't have the right metadata associated to it, or if it's just stored in the wrong place, that information is hard to turn into actionable insights. There's also the problem of inefficient article spend. So naturally, we come across a lot of users who are using different search and discovery tools. And they might be tempted to purchase an article directly from a publisher, not realizing they have a subscription, or the organization has a token package in place. They also just might not realize that your organization already has access to that article and has already made that purchase. So these are a lot of the things that we're solving for as well. And then on the content management side, systems have to make it easy to collaborate, to share throughout the research process. So, how often do we find that a publication sort of gets chucked into someone's personal SharePoint, never to be seen again? That does happen quite a bit. So we want to make sure that we're able to capture, to organize literature, to make it shareable and accessible for research teams across the organization. All right, and then we do want to hear from you on this matter as well. So we have a poll here. Julia, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, pulling this up as I speak. Okay, awesome. So you should be able to see this now. Kind of what Heidi just mentioned. We'd just like to know what challenge concerns you most. This is a multi-select. You can also let us know which challenges concern you most. Researchers can't find what they need, time-consuming manual review and analysis, inefficient spend, unorganized data, lack of collaboration, or maybe it's something else, and we'd love to hear about it in the chat. Okay, see people filling this out. Wait just another second here.
I'm excited to see what the responses are.
Let's see and pull, and let me share this as I speak. Okay, it looks like time-consuming manual review and analysis is #1, but also pretty even split, right? Inefficient spend. Also, researchers can't find what they need. Interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. This is great to know.
Yeah, this definitely validates a lot of the things that we've been working on, which you'll see in a moment. So hopefully that means this webinar will be worthwhile, and you'll take away some exciting information here. So yeah, that being said, I do want to talk a little bit about how Research Solutions is actively trying to solve some of these problems. Across our portfolio of solutions, we support researchers in discovering, accessing, managing, as well as analyzing research, and of course, collaborating around literature. So we have a product called Cite, which does lend itself to the discovery process as well as the analyze process as well. But Cite is essentially a database of citation statements, which are extracted from the full text publications. So it helps us to understand context around how the research is being mentioned, whether it's supported by future research, or if it's contrasted or just mentioned. So aside from just how often a paper is being cited, we can actually understand the context in which that research is being utilized as well. There is also an assistant capability within Cite that helps to aggregate and summarize scientific literature. And I'll use those citation statements to sort of rank references effectively. And a lot of researchers use it to find a handful of relevant papers on their specific topic, which they can then use to further, expand on their references and find additional research papers as needed. Of course, we do also have Article Galaxy, which helps with the access portion of today's call. Of course, the goal of Article Galaxy is also always to ensure that we are helping researchers get access to publications and literature at the lowest cost possible. We'll talk a little bit more about that later as well. And then the management side is where our references solution comes in. So this helps to facilitate making sure the organization has access to all of that purchased literature, that they can organize it, add additional metadata and information through things like tags and custom fields, but also share folders with relevant teams, based on the projects that they're working on. And then lastly, which will be the focus of today's call and the remainder of our webinar, is going to be this analyze piece. So going back to that first problem that we talked about, and which it seems like many of you are also struggling with, we keep hearing from our administrative customers that they want an easier way to understand usage, manage their spend, without having to spend all that time kind of calculating and conducting manual analysis. So that being said, I'm happy to talk more about our admin analytics capability within the admin portal through Article Galaxy, which again is built entirely to empower our administrative customers to make those data-driven decisions and also help to manage article spend, across the research process. So that being said, I'm really excited to show you what this is going to look like. It is available today for all of our platform customers. So this is something that, for those customers will be no additional cost, and it's a huge expansion on some of our analysis capabilities. So I am going to pull up the platform here. There are a few changes as well within the admin portal that I do want to address. First off, I am going to add a caveat that what you'll see today, of course, will demonstrate the analysis capabilities. I am using old stale data. So you'll see that in a couple of places come up, and I'll of course clarify some of the things you'll be seeing. But yeah, this is, I can't show actual customer data, which is where we start to see some really cool trends come up, but I'm still, super excited to show you what we can do through the new analytics portion. The previous homepage in the admin portal did show a pie chart of transactions. That is now no longer, which is why you're seeing this new homepage here. So this shows information on like new announcements and updates, as well as release notes, blog posts, and press releases. So just trying to give you access to helpful information so you can also easily share that with users if they're needed. This also does feature some Article Galaxy tutorials. So again, hopefully this can act as a bit of a repository for you as an administrative user. But the real value, the real exciting stuff is found here in the Analytics tab. So you can click there and that will show you a slightly more familiar view, potentially if you are an admin customer. But again, here you have things like the pie chart, which will break down all of the Article Galaxy transactions and where users are interacting with literature across, across the scope of our coverage here. We also do have some additional analytics, which I'll show you. It is intended to be an interactive tool, but really to help save you time rather than you having to conduct this manual analysis yourself. The other caveat here is this is our first version. We do already have plans to expand on some of the capabilities here, which I'll talk about a little bit more as well a little bit later. But let's start showing you some of the powerful analysis tools we have here. So again, first and foremost is the Article Galaxy transactions, which really gives you helpful insight into how your users are accessing scientific content. Of course, a large part of Article Galaxy is getting access to additional documents when needed. So you'll see that represented here in the document delivery purchase. So that typically means a purchase was made and a new PDF was ordered. But you'll see this really accounts for only 24% of how the users in this case were able to leverage and access content in the platform. So a fairly low percentage when you look at all the other ways they're accessing, such as through the PDF library. So there's almost as many interactions with the PDF library as there are purchases here, which shows us that we're actually helping to mitigate costs and reduce duplicate purchases potentially because users are able to find the article they need within the PDF library. So again, that's one benefit to Article Galaxy. We are trying to circumvent those duplicate purchases and make sure that users have available access to all those publications that have already been purchased through the organization. Another feature here is, of course, open access. So showing, how often users are leveraging open access content in the platform and a few other categories as well. You'll notice we do layer in subscription content. So we're able to help manage those purchases through Article Galaxy as well. All of that is layered in, as well as things like token packages. So that's another option here. Rentals is another one. So you'll see that here on the legend. So we do allow users to rent the article for a few days rather than committing to a full purchase, which does save money, especially if it turns out that that article wasn't necessarily relevant, or they just needed to read it and move on. So a lot of great benefits there to rentals. I am going to click in for a more detailed view here. So this will give I think a better analysis or show some more of the trends in how users are accessing content through Article Galaxy. The great thing here as well is you can actually, sorry, maybe not here. So there is a different view which will allow you to sort of filter or, break down the different categories here, which I'll show in a moment, but it's not in this one. Anyways, you can still see, again, some of the trends here and how users are accessing content. You'll also notice there is a download option. So we can download these outputs to PNG, Excel, or CSV. So these are really readily available for you to extract from the platform, to include in any presentations to leadership as well, which just helps to communicate the value of Article Galaxy to those decision makers in your organization. So again, that is something you'll see repeatedly throughout the demonstration today. The other thing I do want to note is you can adjust the time frame. There are multiple options. The default is the last 30 days. I'm using last year here because this is just a stale data set, so it hasn't recently been updated. And if I were to show last 30 days, it would not populate any information. So I chose last year just so you can see some of the data here in action. But you also do have a month to date, a year to date, as well as a custom range that you can leverage as well. So it does give you the flexibility in how you want to really slice and dice the data and understand trends over time. Okay, so those are your transaction details. You also do have total spend. So this is another interactive component of the analytics. So if we click on total spend here, it'll show you how much was spent month over month. So it does give you, again, the ability to see sort of, which months more resources were spent towards acquiring research, maybe where there was a lull, things of that nature. So, yeah, just giving you insights into those transactions and total spend over time. I think pretty self-explanatory, but again, very easy to extract this information from the admin portal. Okay, so total transactions here, it's very similar to the Article Galaxy transactions, but there's one main difference, and that is, again, sorry, excuse me, the option to remove or filter out certain types of data. So there will be an option as well in the future where you can click on the different labels here. So PDF library, for example, or other. If you wanted to remove the other option, you will be able to sort of select these different labels here and filter them out of the visualization. So yeah, that was sort of what I was referencing earlier. That is something we are actively working on here. Okay, so back to the main page. Turnaround time, I'm going to come back to, again, this is because of the data set that I'm using here on the demonstration today. I do have some screenshots I can share with you after I'm finished with the live demo here to show you just what that would look like. But basically it shows the number of documents that were delivered within 2 hours. This is from the past 30 days, so there should be a caveat here as well to signify that, which is, again, why we're not seeing any data in this instance. But again, I will come back to that. Active users is another one. This just means that these are the users that have enabled access to the platform. So you might have some inactive users that's shown here in the total. So those will include any users who have potentially left the organization that are in the system, but technically don't have access. So I do want to clarify that. But if we click in here to the more detailed view, this is where you can see the top 10 users. Of course, your organization might have, thousands of users, hundreds of users, but we really wanted this to be a helpful view to display just sort of how your top users are engaging with the platform. So yeah, there's a caveat here that it does display just those top 10 users at this time. This is, again, a great opportunity to show you what that filtering capability will look like. So as you'll see here, we have sort of a stacked bar chart. I can see very clearly that, user 1 here, he did make, a total of 400, he or she, I should say, 401 document delivery purchases. demo user 2, we can see a lot of interactions, a lot of access through open access content or PDF library, but very few document delivery purchases. So if I wanted to, I could actually remove things like other rentals. I could remove a number of these different access points to show, just the information I'm interested in. So I could actually focus just on document delivery purchase if I wanted to see which users are, making the most purchases in the platform as well. I think this is a critical point to make also is, our admins do have the power to sort of limit spend based on, users or, price of an article. Also, of course, you have the ability to set those caps in place for certain users if you do see they are spending a lot of extra money on those document delivery purchases. So that is, again, a great reason why this exists, is to give you insight onto where you might want to put some of those caps or limits in place. Of course, these could still order if you have a cap in place, but you would just have to sort of click in, review the purchase and approve or deny it. So as an admin, you do have the capability to do that. Again, having this insight into those power users, those top users, just gives you more information to make those decisions. Okay, back to the main page. So again, we've been through some of the different interactive analytics here. We do have more on the way, but another view that you'll see here is the activity at the bottom. So right now, this is not interactive. There will be more detailed analysis coming specifically on the activity, so you can see the features that your users are readily engaging with. Specifically for references, I think this is a fantastic way to show the value of that specific product here. References, for those of you that don't know, is the reference management capability within Article Galaxy. It is really more than a reference manager. It is a great way to sort of organize the PDFs and the publications you've purchased, to tag, add custom fields for additional sorting, but also collaboration and sharing of that content as well. So it's a really great functionality for your users, and you do have capabilities to, control what tags they're using, or, control what custom fields they're using as well. So let's talk more about this activity. Really, you could also look at these as engagements. So how often are they searching in the platform? How often are they utilizing our reuse rights tool to see, are they able to use that publication for a presentation or for use internally with their teams? It's a great way to make sure that your teams are staying copyright compliant. So we wanted to make sure that these types of activities were featured in this view as well. Also, PDF library actions. So again, not only are they purchasing new content at the lowest cost possible, but how often are they accessing content through the PDF library? And then things like link outs to subscriptions. So you have a lot of great additional information here. Again, we'll be expanding on some of the capabilities, so you'll be able to click through to see more detailed analysis on these activities, but a really nice way to show some of the additional value that Article Galaxy does provide to your users and the organization. For references, again, just to go through some of these, not all of them, but you can see things, how many times a user has dragged content from the PDF library and dropped it into another folder, how many times they've searched directly in the PDF library. So again, they're searching just across the content that your organization has already purchased. And then collaboration actions. So this could be things like sharing folders, adding user groups, that type of thing. So really great ways to, lower some of the friction when it comes to collaborating across research, which, as we talked about before, is one of the problems we see, in research today. So that should give you an idea of some of the capabilities we have. Again, ability to filter to time frame. There is a custom option there. We'll also be expanding on some of the analysis capabilities around activity. But again, being that this is our first release on this, we're just excited to get feedback, to hear other ways that we can potentially save you time, different ways we can build out the analytics portal here. I think that's the gist of the demo today. Let me just quickly make sure that there's something else I can share about what we're developing. There will be ability to generate a comparative analysis in the future, so comparing year over year, deeper data exports. So when you're downloading things like total transactions, there will be the option to download the raw data behind it as well, rather than just the visualization. So the visualizations, of course, are helpful for sharing those insights with your leadership team. But having access to more specific data, the raw data as well for additional analysis will become available. So yeah, those are some things we'll be working on. But again, as I mentioned before, we always welcome that feedback. So yeah, I think this is the majority of what I'll show here. I do want to quickly go back to my presentation before I hand it back over to Julia here, to show you just briefly what the turnaround time looks like. So I'm going to advance my slide here. So again, this is what it will look like. So you'll be able to see a percentage of within that 30-day time frame, how many of those documents were delivered under 2 hours. And then once you click into the details, it'll show you a pie chart as well. So you can see how quickly users were able to access the content through Article Galaxy. In most cases, it is going to be instantly. So yeah, they'll have instant access to those PDFs. In some cases, it might take an hour or two for them to receive that PDF as well through email. So just giving you an idea of the additional value that Article Galaxy provides. All right, and that concludes my demo. So I'm going to hand it back over to Julia here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Heidi. I love the analytics features that were just launched. Okay, so I don't want to call out here. I'm adding a link in the chat. I just feel like that's always easier. So if you have any specific questions about your instance, if you're current admin or customer, feel free to reach out to your customer success manager. If for some reason you're not sure who that is, with the link that I just added in the chat, if you fill out the form, it will automatically direct you to your customer success manager, or also, as usually, you can always reach out to me or Heidi, and we're happy to make sure that we connect you with the right person. Yeah, so feel free to leverage that link. And then let's go into questions. If you haven't added yours yet, you can do that now. I do see a few already. The first question, Heidi, is we purchase articles through Article Galaxy, but I don't have access to Admin Analytics. How do I get access?
Yeah, that's a great question. There might be 1 or 2 scenarios there. One, you may not be a platform customer, so that is a yearly annual fee associated with having access to the platform and all the features that come, not just with purchasing articles, but getting access to the PDF library, to reuse rights, things like that. So it's possible you're not a platform customer, which would give you access to the admin portal in general. But it's also possible that we need to sort of just turn on a switch for you. So if you do have access to the portal, the admin portal, but you're not seeing the analytics, please reach out to us or our customer support team, and they can get that fixed for you. So yeah, I think it's probably 1 or 2 of those scenarios. But yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any questions on that.
Great, thank you. Good question. The next I see is, in the past, I've exported an Excel file with all the activity and purchase details. Is that still available?
It is. So you still have the report functionality or the tab in the admin portal where you can download all of the raw data and generate different reports. So that hasn't changed at all. We added the different visualizations and analysis tools, and then we'll be adding in the future some options to download more of that data underneath. So we'll sort of just be expanding on those capabilities, but the original option to download a report is still available to you.
Okay, the next one is, would we have metrics or analysis about the publishers we purchase articles from?
Yes, absolutely. So that is on our roadmap as well. Again, you can do this by downloading those reports and interacting with the raw data. So that is something you can certainly do, but we do want to create an option to do that within the analysis view as well. So that is absolutely something we'll be developing in the near future. But yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Yes, great.
Yeah.
Is this webinar being recorded? Yes, good question. It is. So we're recording this right now, and all of you will receive a copy of the recording in a few hours. So yeah, I'll be sending out an email to all the registrants. So we've got you covered there.
Great.
Okay, looks like that was the last question. Let's wait another 2 minutes to see if anybody wants to add a question here. And also let me call out, maybe in the meanwhile, if any questions come up, let me add a link to the resources page. We do have tons of webinars, both on demand and also upcoming. So if you didn't know this page existed, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Feel free to browse around there and see if there's anything that is of interest to you.
That's a good point, Julia. And I meant to mention this earlier, but for the other parts of that workflow where we show how Article Galaxy Insight can support things like discovery, accessing and managing literature, we have a ton of webinars on the resources page dedicated to those. So definitely check those out if you're interested to see, how we do support that part of the workflow.
Certainly. And if you have trouble finding it, we have like so many webinars, maybe it's too much. Feel free to reach out if you're like, oh, I'm looking for information about this certain topic. I'm happy to help filter that for you. Okay, I did see a new question pop up. The question is, how does one access the portal Heidi was presenting?
Yeah, great question. So again, this is if you are a platform customer specifically. I can actually show quickly what that would look like here. So let me pull up my screen, my browser here. Okay, so if you navigate to Article Galaxy, or let me show you like reprintsdesk.com. So you'll have I gotta sign out, sorry. So if you go to reprintsdesk.com, you have the typical user sign in. So this is what, people trying just to access the Article Galaxy platform will see. For admins specifically, there is the admin sign in. So that is a separate login. So you would just click there and then log in with that dedicated account. So yeah, that's how you can access the admin portal. But again, you do have to be a platform customer and subscribe to our platform.
Yeah, great question. If for some reason you don't see this, feel free to reach out as well, and happy to help you there.
Yeah.
Okay. Looks like we've answered all questions. Sometimes questions come up afterwards. So as I mentioned, feel free to reach out either on that link that I send to your customer success manager, customer support, or you can hit reply to the email, and then I'm happy to respond as well. Well, thank you so much for joining, everyone, and spending your time with us this morning or afternoon, depending on where you are, and see you on the next webinar. Thank you, Heidi, so much for showing us Admin Analytics today as well.
Yeah, thanks, Julia. Thanks, everybody.